It was supposed to be an ordinary Sunday. If anything, it was too ordinary, almost forced. Naomi's family had this ritual once a month, a big, borderline theatrical dinner at her parents' house. Her mom went all out like she was trying to impress the queen, 3 different kinds of salad, candles flickering on every surface, folded cloth napkins no one ever wanted to use. Her dad manned the grill like a general leading his troops. Her sister Lauren always gave a speech even when there wasn't anything to celebrate. That day, the air smelled like steak, rosemary, and a faint perfume that didn't quite belong. I didn't think much of it at first. I was sitting to Naomi's right, as always. We were side-by-side partners, supposed to be the perfect couple. Her family always said so, "You two are rock solid, such a great team, built to last." Their words used to mean something. Used to. Dinner started like any other. Chatter filled the room, silverware clinked against plates, and Naomi played the role she knew so well, smiling, laughing a little too brightly at her brother's bad jokes, tossing her hair over her shoulder just like she did when we first met. Only now, it felt like a performance I hadn't bought tickets for. Midway through dinner, I noticed Naomi wasn't really eating. She just moved her food around with her fork, her mind 1,000 miles away. When I leaned in to ask if she was okay, she gave me a tight smile and said, "I'm great. Never better." A lie so small it almost slipped by unnoticed. Almost. I went back to sipping my wine, pretending not to notice the way her knee kept bouncing under the table, a nervous twitch she used to get before big job interviews. What was she nervous about tonight? Lauren was in the middle of some long-winded toast about family traditions when Naomi suddenly stood up. No warning. No lead-in. She just rose from her chair, glass in hand, her expression poised like she was about to announce her candidacy for office. "I've decided, we're getting divorced," she said, voice clear, steady. "And please, no drama." For a second, nobody reacted. Like the words didn't compute. Then her mom's fork clattered to her plate. Her dad's mouth opened slightly, no words coming out. Across the table, Lauren stopped mid-sentence, wine glass halfway to her lips. The room fell into an eerie, unnatural silence. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hand, still holding my wine, hovered midair. Naomi didn't look at me. She didn't even glance in my direction. She spoke like I was a piece of furniture at the table, a thing, not a person. The strange part? It wasn't even the word divorce that stunned me the most. It was her perfume. That soft floral scent again. Light, almost expensive smelling. Not the cheap bath and body works sprays she used to joke about. A scent she had always claimed gave her migraines. So why was it clinging to her hair now, delicate and fresh? I swallowed hard, the pieces of a bigger puzzle clicking quietly into place. Naomi sat back down, smoothing her dress like she hadn't just dropped a grenade onto the dinner table. She added, almost breezily, "Grant understands. We're both adults. We want this to be civilized." Her voice floated above the table like smoke, trying to make it sound easy. Painless. An agreement reached mutually over coffee, as if it hadn't blindsided me in front of the very people who once toasted our anniversary. I caught a glimpse of her mom's face, shocked, pale, and something inside me twisted. Naomi thought she could control the story. That she could stage manage her grand exit with perfect lighting and a neat little bow. She thought wrong. I leaned in just slightly, close enough that only she could hear me. My voice low, almost casual. "Is your lover ready for his own surprises?" For the first time all evening, Naomi flinched. It was subtle, so small that if you didn't know her, you'd miss it. A tiny tightening at the corners of her mouth, the way her fingers curled tighter around her glass. She blinked once. Twice. Swallowed. For the first time, she looked human. Vulnerable. Unmasked. The mask slipped and she couldn't get it back up fast enough. Nobody else at the table heard my words, but they saw the shift in her. Her mother's eyes darted between us. Lauren bit her lip. Naomi's dad suddenly seemed very interested in pouring himself another glass of wine. I sat back in my chair, letting the silence stretch, letting her sit in it. If she wanted to end us with a neat monologue and a smile, she was going to have to work harder. Because I wasn't going to play along. For a long moment, Naomi didn't move. Then, without looking at me, she cleared her throat and forced a laugh. "Anyway," she said, trying to rally, trying to pull the strings back into her hands. "Let's just enjoy dinner. Life's too short for bitterness." The words sounded hollow, like she didn't believe them either. I picked up my wine and took a slow sip, studying her over the rim of the glass. There was so much I could have said in that moment. So much I could have revealed. But I didn't. Not yet. There was something more powerful in letting her sit with her fear, wondering what I knew, how much, and what I would do next. Because Naomi wasn't just leaving a marriage. She was leaving behind the person who had once believed in her blindly, and there was a price for that. She just didn't know it yet. The rest of the dinner was a blur. I remember Naomi's mother trying to fill the silence with frantic conversation about upcoming vacations. I remember Lauren proposing a toast to new beginnings, her voice cracking halfway through. I remember Naomi laughing too loudly at a joke no one else found funny. But mostly, I remember sitting there, watching her across the table and thinking, this is how it begins. Not with a fight, not with a slammed door, but with a lie, a smile, and a scent that doesn't belong. And for the first time in a long, long while, I wasn't afraid. After that dinner, silence took on a different shape. We didn't talk much on the drive home. Naomi kept glancing at her phone, probably hoping for a message, some validation from the person waiting in the wings. I stared out the window, watching streetlights flicker past like reminders of how fast things had changed, how fast they'd probably been changing without me noticing. But the truth? I had noticed. I just hadn't wanted to believe what my gut had been screaming for months. Because once you stop lying to yourself, it's impossible not to see the signs. The yoga weekends were the first red flag. Naomi never liked yoga. She used to call it stretching for people who don't want to sweat. But then suddenly she was obsessed. Every other weekend, she was heading out of town for retreats, coming back with a blissed-out expression and zero muscle soreness. I asked her once what kind of yoga they did, and she gave me some vague response about intuitive movement. Whatever that meant. Then came the perfume. The same floral scent I noticed at the dinner, light and powdery, started showing up everywhere. In the hallway after she got back from errands. On her pillowcase. Once, I even found a tiny travel-sized bottle in her gym bag. I picked it up and stared at it for a long time like it might confess something. She'd always claimed scents gave her migraines. So who is she wearing it for now? I'd ask questions and she'd smile, wave it off. I just wanted to try something new, she'd say, turning back to her mirror. No big deal. Except it was. It all started to stack up. The new password on her phone. The lingerie I found in the back of the closet, still in its packaging, tags untouched. Not for me. Definitely not for me. The framed photo of us from our trip to Monterey, once proudly displayed in the living room, quietly vanished one day. I found it tucked in a drawer under some old tax documents, like she'd been too guilty to throw it away but too distant to keep it on display. The little things were the loudest. The "I'm tired" excuses. The cold kisses before bed. The way she started calling me babe again out of nowhere, like she was reading from an old script she barely remembered. And then there was the moment in the kitchen. So simple. So brutal. I had made her tea, it used to be our ritual, and handed it to her while she was scrolling through her phone. She took it without looking up and said absently, "You're like an old blanket, always there, but no longer needed." She didn't even flinch. I laughed it off at the time. Said something like, "Gee, thanks." But deep down I felt it. The shift. The coldness in her tone. I should have said something then. Should have asked her point blank what was going on. But I didn't. Because denial is quieter than pain. It whispers, maybe you're wrong. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe if you just try harder. So I tried. God, I tried. I started leaving her notes in her car again, stupid little things like, "Hope your day is full of sunshine," even though it was raining. I offered to cook more, took her out to places she used to love, even suggested a weekend getaway. She turned them all down. Every offer met with a soft excuse, like she was trying to decline without bruising my ego. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just drifting. She was rehearsing. She was building her next life, brick by brick, while I was still patching the cracks in the one we shared. I had become background noise in my own marriage, white noise she tuned out so she could focus on someone else's voice. The moment I finally admitted it to myself came one night when she was working late. I stayed up, pacing the living room, the silence buzzing in my ears. Around 11 p.m. I walked into the bathroom and saw her charger still plugged in, her phone was gone. And just like that I knew. She hadn't forgotten it. She needed it. It was her lifeline to the other side of the wall she'd built between us. I went back into our bedroom and stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the wind whistle against the windows. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind started assembling the puzzle. Her new perfume. Her distant smiles. The text she once sent at midnight from the bathroom, claiming it was her coworker double-checking something for Monday's meeting. I had wanted so badly to believe she was still mine. But she wasn't. Not anymore. Somewhere along the way, Naomi had started speaking a different language. And I didn't get a translation. I thought about confronting her. A dramatic late-night showdown. Demanding answers. But something in me held back. Not because I was afraid of what I'd hear, because I already knew. But because I realized something even worse. She didn't care if I found out. She had stopped caring a long time ago. I wasn't her husband anymore, I was her placeholder. A prop in the version of her life she hadn't quite finished rewriting. And I knew deep in my gut that she had already practiced the words she was going to say when the truth finally came out. Words like, we've grown apart, and this isn't working anymore, and you deserve better. I used to think those were gentle ways to end things. Now I know they're just exits. Stage left. So I stopped trying to fix what she'd already decided to leave broken. And instead I started watching. Quietly. Carefully. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to throw myself at her feet and ask to be chosen again. No. If Naomi wanted a clean ending, she was going to get one. But it wasn't going to be hers alone. Because love might make you blind, but betrayal? That makes you see everything. The day I found the proof wasn't some dramatic turning point. It wasn't storming outside. She didn't leave a trail of lipstick on someone else's collar. There was no intercepted text, no whispered phone call caught through a crack in the door. It was a Tuesday. Plain. Gray. Forgettable. She'd left her laptop on the dining table. That wasn't unusual. Naomi was careless with technology, the kind of person who never bothered to log out or close her tabs. We used to share everything. Same Netflix account. Same Amazon cart. Same Spotify playlists. Her digital life was always an open window. Until lately. Until she started setting passwords on everything but the microwave. That morning, she'd rushed out for work, half a muffin in hand, saying something about a conference call. The laptop sat there like bait I wasn't supposed to notice. But I did. And I opened it. No part of me felt proud. There was no smugness. Just this tight knot in my chest that had been forming for weeks, months, if I'm being honest. My hands shook as I clicked through her desktop. Everything looked normal. Spreadsheets. Calendar reminders. An open Word doc with some half-written grocery lists that still included my favorite cereal. Then I saw the folder. Tucked innocently between others labeled budgets, Q4 notes, and photos, this one was called simply reports. That was her trick. Bury the truth in plain sight. I clicked it open. What I found inside wasn't shocking. Not anymore. But it still hurt like hell. PDF files. Dozens of them. Receipts from boutique hotels and cafes far from her office. Two-person breakfasts. Credit card charges that didn't match anything we had planned together. Photos. Parking garages. A blurry picture of two silhouettes holding hands under a street lamp. The grainy kind that looks like nothing at first until you recognize the shape of your own wife's coat. And then came the screensh asterisk TS. Conversations saved as PNGs. That was what stunned me. She'd saved them. She wanted to keep them. Her and whoever he was. I didn't need his name to hate him. Will you be there tonight? He suspects nothing. Don't worry. You're my calm after his storms. But the one that stuck, the one I still hear like a needle scratching vinyl. After dinner, it'll all be over. After dinner. That dinner. The one where she announced our divorce in front of her entire family like it was a surprise party for me. So that's what it had been, her finale. And this? This folder was the script. I sat there staring at the screen, the world narrowing into a tight, airless tunnel. I felt cold and hot and hollow all at once. There's something surreal about seeing your own heartbreak documented like evidence in a trial. Dates. Times. Words you weren't meant to read. Moments that happened while you were out buying groceries or fixing the leaking faucet or falling asleep beside someone who was dreaming of someone else. I didn't cry. I just printed it. All of it. I found a manila envelope in our filing cabinet, the one where we kept tax forms and vet records and old birthday cards. I slipped the papers inside, sealed it with shaking hands, and placed it next to her purse on the entry table. No notes. No confrontation. Just facts. Let her decide what to do with them. That evening when she came home, I was sitting on the couch reading. Or pretending to. I didn't look up. She walked in, kicked off her heels, hung up her coat, and froze when she saw the envelope. She knew. I heard the change in her breathing. She picked it up slowly like it might explode. Her fingers hesitated on the flap, then pulled it open. The rustle of pages. The pause. The silence. And then, nothing. No questions. No denials. Not even a fake I can explain. Just quiet. She didn't say a word. She walked upstairs without looking at me. The soft sound of the bedroom door closing behind her. And for the first time in this entire unraveling, I didn't follow. That night, we didn't sleep in the same bed. We didn't speak. We didn't exist in the same space, not really. It was like living with a ghost. And I was fine with that. The next morning, she was already gone by the time I came downstairs. No note. No breakfast made. No coffee brewed, though she'd always insisted on making mine, even when we were fighting. That was her last ritual. And now it was gone too. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, rereading the screech asterisk TS I had printed, analyzing the curve of her words, the care she had put into them. They were soft, poetic even. Things she hadn't said to me in years. You can tell when love shifts. It doesn't die loudly. It fades like sunlight through dust. And then one day it belongs to someone else. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not friends. Not family. Not even my brother, who always had a sixth sense for when something was wrong. I just held the truth quietly. A stone in my chest. Heavy but mine. Because I wasn't ready to share it yet. I wasn't ready to be the guy with the cheating wife, the guy people pity at parties, the guy whose life cracked open and spilled everywhere. I needed control. And now I had it. She might have ended the marriage with her big dinner table speech, but I ended the illusion. Quietly. Deliberately. Without a word. And in that silence, something powerful took root. Not revenge. Not rage. Just resolve. This wasn't the end. Not yet. But the end was coming. And this time I was the one writing it. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't tear through the house demanding answers or throw my wedding ring across the floor like in the movies. I just left. No grand announcement. No suitcase dragged to the door. Just a quiet departure, a key turned in the lock, and the sound of my footsteps retreating down the walkway of the house we once called home. I drove for hours with no real destination. Not out of panic, but out of clarity. There was nothing left to argue about. She'd made her choice. I'd found the truth. The confrontation wasn't necessary anymore. The only thing left was exposure. Eventually, I landed at this old motel on the outskirts of town. The kind of place with peeling paint, flickering neon, and vending machines that probably hadn't been restocked since 2007. It was perfect. Nobody asked questions. Nobody cared who I was or why I looked like I hadn't slept in 3 days. Room 6 had one window facing an open field, a lumpy mattress, and a small plastic table with 2 uneven legs. I unpacked my things, a duffel bag with clothes, my laptop, and the folder. The folder was everything. The printed messages. The hotel receipts. Screech asterisk TS from her laptop. The photo of her silhouette under the street lamp. I laid it all out on the bed like evidence at a crime scene. Because that's what it was. I wasn't interested in making a scene. Naomi thrived in chaos. She knew how to spin drama into sympathy, how to cry just enough without smudging her mascara. But what she wouldn't expect was silence. A surgical unraveling. No fireworks, no mess. Just consequences. I made digital copies. 3 sets. One I stored on an external hard drive, password protected, hidden in a folder labeled car insurance. Another I emailed to myself and stored in a private archive. And the third? That one went to Karen. Naomi's sister. If there was one person who deserved to know the truth, it was Karen. She loved Naomi, of course, but she also loved me. Not in that way. Just as a brother. A confidant. Karen and I had always had that quiet understanding, the kind where we could talk without explaining everything. I didn't include a message. No rant. No drama. Just a subject line, you should see this. And the attachments. I hit send and sat back in the creaky motel chair, waiting to feel something. Relief? Sadness? Vindication? What I felt instead was stillness. Later that night, I stood outside the motel room with a styrofoam cup of burnt coffee, staring out at the field. It was dark, but not peaceful. The kind of dark that hums with everything unspoken. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. 2 minutes later, a text came through. You don't understand what you're doing. We have a family too. No name. But I didn't need one. It was him. The man she risked everything for. The one who was supposed to be worth it. He was scared. I wasn't. Because I had the truth, and the truth doesn't panic. I didn't respond. Just blocked the number and tossed the phone on the bed like it was contaminated. The next morning, I got a call from Karen. I let it ring twice before picking up. Hey, she said, her voice quiet. I saw everything. I didn't reply. Mark, I had no idea. She never told me. I mean, Jesus. The messages. Still, I said nothing. She took a breath. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. You don't have anything to apologize for, I said finally. I don't even know what to say to her, she whispered. She's pretending everything's fine. Said you were taking space to reflect. Is that what she told everyone? Probably, I said. It's what she does. She's going to implode when she realizes people know, Karen said. When it's not just between you two anymore. Good, I replied. She spent months building this illusion. Let it fall. I didn't say it to hurt her. I wasn't angry, not in that moment. Just numb. Focused. The way you get right before surgery, knowing pain is coming but welcoming it if it means healing can begin. Karen offered to talk to their parents to let them know the real story. I told her no. Not yet. This wasn't about revenge. This was about control. About holding the pen when the narrative finally shifted. By the end of the week, Naomi sent me an email. A single line. Can we talk? I deleted it. She tried again. This time, a little longer. I'm sorry things came out the way they did. I think we owe it to each other to have a conversation in person. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't respond. Because that wasn't true. She did hurt me. But not by accident, by design. She had counted on my silence. Counted on me to walk away quietly. She didn't know I was just getting started. I wasn't planning to destroy her. I wasn't looking to burn down her life. I just wanted her to feel the floor shift under her feet. Just like she had done to me. So I kept compiling. I kept gathering. Every file, every receipt, every message. All of it organized into timelines, labeled, dated. I wasn't obsessive. I was preparing. Because when you're betrayed by someone who swore to protect you, the rules change. You stop trying to save the house. And you start making sure the foundation they built their new life on starts to crack. Not through fury, but through truth. And in that quiet room, with peeling wallpaper and a mattress that dipped in the middle, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time. A sense of power. Not the kind that hurts. The kind that heals. Naomi wanted to keep secrets. But now secrets were the very thing setting me free. I never meant to go public. That wasn't the goal. When you're betrayed like that, the initial instinct is usually rage or silence. Mine had been silence. Tactical, sharp-edged, intentional. But silence only gets you so far. Naomi had spent months designing a new version of herself, curated, calculated, clean. She'd been careful with the optics. Our divorce wasn't her fault, it was mutual. She wasn't walking away from love, she was choosing her happiness. It was all there in the way she spoke to people, in the way her social media shifted. Posts about growth. Vague quotes about self-worth. Sometimes two people outgrow each other, written in cursive under a filtered photo of her sipping tea in a sunlit cafe. Meanwhile, I was living in a studio apartment with bare walls and a futon that had probably outlived 3 tenants. The contrast was sharp, but not unexpected. She'd moved on. Or at least pretended to. And the world? It believed her. Until I decided to tell the truth. I didn't go to the press or make some long Facebook post dripping in heartbreak. That would have been easy to dismiss, bitter ex-husband rants online. Seen it before. Scroll past? No. I chose precision. A camera. A chair. A story. I rented a quiet studio in the next town over. Paid for it in cash. It had nothing but a concrete floor, a single window, and soft lighting that didn't try too hard. I set up my phone on a tripod and hit record. And then I just talked. I didn't yell. I didn't point fingers. I didn't call her names or dramatize anything. I simply told the truth. I talked about the nights she was at yoga while I reheated leftovers and waited up, refreshing her location on my phone like a fool. I talked about the shift in her eyes, the way she smiled at me like I was a coworker she had to tolerate at the office holiday party. I talked about the night I watched her erase our photo from the living room and replace it with a framed quote, "Growth is painful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck." And then I laid out the evidence. Motel reservations. Screensh *TS of text messages. Printed receipts. A voice memo from her phone, one I'd found buried deep in her app folders where she called him my calm after the storm and me the ghost I keep pretending to live with. I ended the video with a still frame. Just one image. Her lover, Grant, walking into a parent-teacher conference, hand in hand with his wife, their daughter between them. No captions. No accusations. Just a frame. A reality. I encrypted the video and sent it to 2 people. Naomi's boss. And Grant's wife. No subject lines. No explanations. Just a link. A password. And silence. I didn't stick around for the fallout. 2 days later, I turned my phone off. Logged out of everything. Booked a cabin for the weekend and went off-grid. And for the first time in months I slept. Really slept. The kind where you wake up and don't feel like you've been holding your breath for hours. I didn't check messages when I got back. But they were there. Of course they were. Emails from Naomi. Missed calls from blocked numbers. One text from an unknown sender. "You think you're the only one who got hurt?" I didn't answer any of them. Because I wasn't interested in revenge. I wasn't trying to ruin her. I was simply putting the truth where it belonged. She could pretend all she wanted, paint herself as the strong, independent woman reclaiming her life. But facts are stubborn things. And eventually, they stop being whispers and start sounding like sirens. A week later, I heard through Karen, Naomi's sister, that she'd been placed on administrative leave at work. Not because of the affair, technically. It was a matter of professionalism and judgment. But we both knew the truth. Karen didn't celebrate. She just said, "She's unraveling, Mark. I think she finally realized you weren't bluffing." That's the thing people forget. Sometimes the calmest people are the ones you should fear the most. Because they don't come at you screaming. They wait. They build. And when they move, it's final. Naomi never thought I'd act. She thought I'd crumble, cry, maybe drink too much and beg her to come back. She thought her exit would be clean, controlled, on her terms. But there's no such thing as a clean betrayal. There's always blood, even if no one sees it. And the thing about lies? They rot from the inside out. Eventually they show. I wasn't the one who exposed Naomi. She exposed herself. All I did was turn on the light. It started with a letter. Not an email. Not a text. An actual, handwritten letter like something out of a novel. Naomi's handwriting, still as neat as ever, looped in the same style she used when she'd leave love notes in my lunchbox back when things were good. "Mark, you were good to me. Better than I probably deserved. I made mistakes. We both did. But I'd like to talk, just talk, without blame. If you'll let me. No manipulation. No excuses. No, please come home. Just an invitation to meet as if we were old acquaintances catching up for coffee after a long silence." I sat with the letter for 3 days before replying. Not because I was torn, but because I wanted to see what remained. Not of the marriage, but of her. We met at this quiet cafe by the river. The kind with chipped mugs and jazz playing softly in the background. I got there first. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. Not physically, she still looked like Naomi. Peach-colored coat, perfectly styled hair. But her eyes? Empty. She sat down across from me, folding her hands carefully like she was trying to look composed, but I could see her jaw tighten every time I didn't speak first. She smiled. "You look good," she said. "You look practiced," I replied. That threw her off just enough. She inhaled, steadied herself. "Mark, what you did, it was cruel." I raised an eyebrow. "Truth is cruel now? You humiliated me." "No," I said calmly. "You did that. I just stopped hiding it." Naomi's eyes narrowed, her mask slipping for the briefest second. "I lost everything." I leaned in. "No. You just finally had to sit in what you created." She looked away, silent for a long moment. The river behind her window seat shimmered under the gray sky. "I didn't want it to end like this," she murmured. I nodded. "Neither did I. But we don't get to set the ending when we burn the script." She wiped the corner of her eye, but no tears followed. She cried too many times already, some real, most rehearsed. Now she was just exposed. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. "You gave me divorce like a gift," I said softly, turning toward the window. "Now I give you freedom." No audience this time. She didn't follow me. Didn't call my name. She just sat there. Alone. For once, without someone to clap for her performance. I left town not long after that. Quietly. No dramatic goodbye. No post on social media. I didn't even tell Karen where I was going until weeks later. I just disappeared. I moved to a small town 2 hours north. Bought a used truck. Rented a 1-bedroom apartment above a hardware store. Switched my number. Stopped checking email. For a while, I just existed. My new job was as a construction consultant. Not the corporate kind. This was hands-on, callous palms, early mornings, boots on the ground kind of work. I liked it. It didn't require me to be anyone other than who I was. I drank my coffee alone most mornings. Not because I was lonely, but because I finally didn't have to pretend to be okay for someone else. That kind of peace is subtle. It doesn't shout. It hums. The owner of the local bookstore, Harper, noticed I kept coming in without ever buying anything. One day she handed me a book without a word. The Art of Letting Go. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't even ask my name. She just said, "This helped me once. Might help you." We didn't start anything, not right away. There was no rush. No urgency. She just existed near me, and that was enough. On a quiet Sunday morning, I drove to the Lake Naomi, and I once visited back when everything was still fragile in a beautiful way, not in the way broken things are. I sat on the edge of the dock. Took out the divorce papers I'd never really looked at. Folded them once. Twice. Then let the wind have them. They fluttered into the water like they were finally free of the weight they carried. I didn't watch them sink. I just stood. Turned. Walked away. Not from my past. from the idea that I had to carry it. Because I wasn't the man who got cheated on. I wasn't the man she left behind. I was the man who survived. And that was enough.